Greetings of peace to everyone, and we're so happy to have you with us again tonight to do a kind of connection, and really we can pocket something one way or another to be able to go through with the situation in life. So in behalf of the Bahrain Meditation Center, we wish to acknowledge the presence of everyone in this Zoom. We also acknowledge the presence of those in the translation, Arabic translation with Dr. Salva translating, and also those joining us through the YouTube channel. So we really deeply appreciate your loving presence to be able to cooperate with us with this endeavor that we are taking. So let tonight be a night to remember as we go through an inspiring talk for us to reflect the importance and how to make life meaningful, or maybe more meaningful as the case may be. And who would be the best tonight? And before I give the floor to Yogesh, let's have a glimpse of his background, which would make us get inspired more to set journey in life to a higher destination. Being born in Malawi, Africa, with an Indian background and brought up in London and Oxford, England, Yogesh already has an innate ability to easily connect to people from different cultures and all walks of life. As a personal development trainer over 20 years, several continents, Yogesh found real purpose in life to others to find their life's purpose. To his expertise is a list of topics like
Hello, everyone. Are you able to hear me? I know we're having problems hearing Vicky. Can you hear me? You can. Okay, so maybe I'll start, but I do need to check that the Arabic translation is also being heard. Let's say yes from control. Okay, so I'll just carry on. So firstly, big thank you to Vicky and also to the Bahrain Meditation Center for the chance to share some ideas with you tonight about a meaningful life. And partly it'll be autobiographical, and I'll be sharing some of the things which have been important for me in making life meaningful. And I like to start with a couple of quotes from the ancient Greek philosophers, where Aristotle said that the beginning of all wisdom is to know the self. And Socrates told us that the unexamined life is not worth living. So we've had great wisdom around for centuries. But when I was growing up, especially in my teens, life did seem to be rather confusing. And I would think even more so today for young people growing up. And one of the reasons for this is we are presented with very mixed values in society, in the media, in our education. And so for me, I used to think, how should I live some kind of meaningful life in a world which really seems to be upside down? So, for example, on the news, I may see something about thousands or tens of thousands of people who really have no food or shelter. And we're being asked by aid agencies, for example, to donate $1 a day. $1 will feed a whole family. And so, yeah, great work, great compassion for humanity. But then the next news story would be about a piece of paper on which a famous song was written 60 years ago, has just been sold at an auction for $1 million. And so for me, it was like, excuse me, what just happened there? What are the values? What's really important? How to live? How to live some kind of life of contribution. And so when we're presented with so many mixed values, then my own feeling was I need to explore myself, and I need to explore what's really important to me in order so that when my time is over in this life, I can look back and think, yeah, I had a meaningful life. It meant something. And so I'm going to be sharing some ideas about my own journey towards meaning. And I'm hoping some of the ideas will be also useful for you. So, firstly, I'd like to say there are three main categories of people that I have come across in this context. And one I would say are people who are passengers, simply passengers passing through life. And perhaps that's the majority. And these are people who feel as though they have no self-determination in life, that whatever life throws at them, that's what they have to put up with. Sometimes life is kind to you, sometimes life is not kind to you, and they feel, well, that's the way it is, and there's nothing I can do about it. So it's a kind of passive approach to life, simply just being a passenger. And sometimes they feel very upset with things, but they feel there's nothing I can do, so what's the point? And then there's a second category and perhaps a smaller group. And these are people who fight with life. So, for example, when such a person sees some injustice, whether it's injustice in front of them, in maybe in family or at work or in social life, or it's something they see on the news, then they get very upset. They get very angry. They can become aggressive. And such a person easily begins to point fingers and comes into confrontation and conflict with others. And such a person says, why is it that good things happen to bad people? Bad things happen to good people. There doesn't seem to be any sense to life. And so a person who's in that mode of fighting with life has quite a lot of tension in their mind. And it's almost as though they go through life wearing their war face. So whenever you see them, there's a tense vibe which is coming off that person because they are just unhappy with the way things are, and what they see around them does not compute, does not match with their own personal understanding of justice, what is right, what is wrong, and the way things should be. And I think that this is a growing energy in the world. There's a lot of anger connected to the feeling of injustice. But then there's the third group, and I would say this is the smallest group. And I think that's the group that we are interested to be in. And that's the group of those who are explorers of life. So someone who's an explorer doesn't just want to see what's on the surface, but wants to understand what is below the surface. Why are things the way they are? Whether it's in personal life or it's in the global context. What is the mechanism which makes things happen? It's as though the explorer wants to turn the clock around and take out the back and see what are the wheels which is making things move. And so an explorer would not simply be reactive to what is seen, but to want to understand more deeply what are the spiritual principles and laws which are governing life. And by understanding those laws and principles, the explorer learns to live in alignment with them. The result of which, the explorer learns to find an inner happy balance. Not just in terms of maintaining one's peace of mind or happiness, but additionally knowing how I can make a meaningful contribution to life. And when you feel you're making a meaningful contribution, it makes you feel very satisfied. It makes you motivated. And it's not something just to do with your job, but it's something which runs through every part of your life. And I would say, in a way, that the journey of the spiritual traveler, the spiritual explorer, is all about making these discoveries, to understand these subtle, invisible principles by which things happen. And I would call it as the greatest adventure. And I believe it's for this reason that those who are yogis, those of us who choose to spend time in silence and make these discoveries, we find a lot of inner entertainment by going on this journey. The one who has this inner entertainment is not so needy or dependent upon the outside. Let's look at what is one of the differences between one who fights life and one who explores life. And I'm going to show you something here. Let me see if I can bring this up. Okay, I need to share screen. So I wonder if I can be allowed to do that. So let me just check with the control. I'm clicking share screen. Okay, now I can. Thank you. Right, so here we are. So here's a question. And the question for you is, what do you see? Now, I'm not going to be hearing your answer, but I'll ask you just to think about it. What do you see? Now, some people will say, well, I see a whirlwind. Some say I see a spiral. Some say I see a snail shell. Some people say I see the universe. Some even say I see a cinnamon roll. Some say I see a jalebi. Many different answers come up. However, pretty much all the answers which come are connected to this image. But hardly anyone says, well, I see also all this wide open, empty, available space here. I didn't ask, what is the image? What did I draw here? But I asked, what do you see? And so people's eyes immediately go to the image that is on the screen. And so here is the principle involved, that what you see is what you will think about. What you think about will generate how you feel. How you feel will drive how you behave and the relationships you form. And all of that creates your world or your reality. So everything starts from what you choose to see. Now, although you are aware that, yes, there is all this empty white space as well, but generally people don't focus on it or pay attention to it. And the point here, of course, is not just to do with the physical eyes, but it's the eye of the mind that we're talking about. As you go through day-to-day life, you're presented with so many things in front of you. Sometimes you may be praised, sometimes criticized, sometimes you win at something, sometimes you lose, sometimes you are the center of attention, other times you're ignored. But out of all of that, what is in your hands is what the eye of your mind chooses to focus upon. And I cannot stress how important this principle is, that what you see creates your world. As is your vision, so is your world. And I believe a big part of a meaningful life, a big part of being spiritually aware or being self-aware, is realizing I have the choice of what I wish to see in any situation. The fighter asks, why is life giving this to me? Why is this happening? The explorer asks, how do I choose to receive this? Not focusing on why life is giving this to me, but asking, how do I choose to receive this? Now, if my mind is consumed by what I do not like about life or about others, I generate my own stress. I generate my own anxiety, anger, depression, etc. But to be spiritually aware, how do I want to receive this? What do I want to make this into? And let's explore a bit further reasons why people go to work and how this is connected to meaning. So do you remember those old days when we used to travel through the city and go to an office? It seems like a long time ago now, maybe. Some are perhaps still doing it, but the world has changed so much in the last year or so. But here are three reasons why people go to work. And these three reasons are connected with three different lifestyles. And so perhaps the main reason why people go to work is, well, it's a job and I need money. So it's simply a means to get an income. And so that is connected to the lifestyle, which we describe as the pleasurable life. Pleasurable life means perhaps some travels, some holidays, social occasions, attending weddings, parties, and so on. And so the person who goes to work simply to earn money may not be so interested in the job. In fact, is just waiting for the clock to hit 5, if that's the finish time, so he or she can leave and go out and enjoy life. So that's one reason for going to work. It's just a job. Then there's a second reason, and this is people who go to work because they want a career. And so a career means that somebody has some kind of short-term or long-term plan. And this individual is thinking, well, after 2 years, I should be here in the company. After 4 years, I should be there. So there's some kind of planning going on. There's a career plan taking place. And a person who goes to work because he or she wants a career will stay late at the office and make sure the boss notices, will laugh at the boss's jokes, although they may have no meaning at all. Will make sure that he or she is seen to be part of an important, integral part of the organization. And that reason for going to work, of building a career, is connected to the lifestyle, which we may describe as, in inverted commas, the good life, or the so-called successful life. And that's the life where you are seen, or you have this image of being successful. You have the nice car parked in your garage. You're wearing clothes with the right brands. You're holidaying in the right places, eating in the right restaurants. That kind of image of success that, yeah, I've made it, I'm a success. So, and for some people, maintaining the image of success is actually more important than being happy. So that's the second reason people go to work, is building the career. And then the third reason, and I think this is the smallest group of all, is a person who goes to work because he or she has found their vocation. Now, to find your vocation and to live your life, to go to work because you found your vocation, is immensely satisfying. And the kind of life that's connected to following your vocation is a meaningful life. And if a person is interested in living a meaningful life, then she or he asks the self quite deep and pertinent questions. For example, how do I measure success? What does success mean to me? When my time is over in this life, on what basis will I say I had a successful life? What really matters at the end of the day? What's really important? How can I contribute? And these kinds of questions are very essential questions, because they take you to the DNA of your soul. They take you to the very engine room of your soul. And as you work towards reaching that place within yourself, and you start living from there, your life is very different to the life where you're running around chasing shadows, or simply trying to keep up an image of success. Now, there are people who even take a wage cut in order to live a meaningful life, because they feel that they have greater life satisfaction rather than simply staying alive or simply following the crowd. So in order to do this, we do require some intelligence. Let's begin to look at three kinds of intelligence. So this is quite a simplified diagram. And so the one here at on the left is, of course, the one that we are most used to hearing about, and that's a person's IQ. Rational intelligence, logic, reason, analysis, and so on. And for many years, this was really the only one that people talked about. If somebody scored high on an IQ test, it would be said she or he is very intelligent. But then another one came more into focus. And of course, you'll be aware of this one too. And that's EQ, a person's emotional intelligence. IQ is more to do with how you handle things. Things means resources, objects, etc. But EQ is about how you are able to handle relationships, how you're able to handle people, how well you're able to manage and understand your own emotions, and also how you can pick up how other people are feeling. If we want our relationships to be meaningful, stable, harmonious, then it's necessary to develop greater EQ. But the one that we're kind of concerned with tonight is this one here. That is our SQ. So SQ stands for spiritual intelligence. And that's largely to do with your relationship with yourself. How is your relationship with yourself? How well do you know yourself? How often do you listen to yourself? How often do you speak to yourself? And there are two main components of spiritual intelligence. One is to do with your sense of identity, and the second is to do with your sense of purpose. And so, who am I, and why am I doing whatever it is I am doing? Now, people who have a high SQ, I found there are two main signs in them. One is that they own their motivation. Their sense of motivation for life comes from inside them rather than externalized or emotional motivation. Now, emotional motivation is fast acting, but it does not last very long. So, for example, if in a work situation, if a boss offers you more money or a company car or a bigger office, you may be motivated, but for some time. That's called emotional motivation. But inner motivation or spiritual motivation is based upon doing this inner work of understanding your identity and understanding your sense of purpose. And that motivation is not just for your work, but it's the red thread which links every part of your life. Your home life, your work life, your social life, any voluntary work you do, it's all interconnected by your SQ. And a person who has this inner motivation, they're able also to motivate others because of their own energy of motivation. And the second sign I've noticed in such people who have high SQ is they have a deep-seated sense of contentment. Even when they pass through failure, or they pass through criticism, or they pass through adversity, they do not lose their happiness. They have the maturity to understand sometimes things do not go as per my wish, but let me be patient. As long as I continue to be true to my sense of purpose, as long as I continue to try to live to the highest values, at some point the right results will come. And so they're not reactive, they're not too impulsive, not too emotional, neither getting too excited nor getting depressed. And this is the work that needs to be done in order really to find greater meaning in our own personal lives, exploring identity and purpose. So now, before we go further, what I'd like to do is just to take a few moments to pause and reflect, because I do believe, in addition to knowledge and understanding, reflection, silence, meditation should be an equal partner. And so I'm going to just invite you into a few moments of reflection. And I'll speak out a few guiding words and also play a little bit of soft music, which can just help us to concentrate better. If you wish, you can have your back straight and feel comfortable. Some people like to have their eyes closed, some half closed, or even fully open. So let me. Okay, so we just take a few moments to just to step back from the world of doing, from the world of action, from the world of noise and responsibilities. I step back from the outside world and I step into my inner world. The world outside of me I cannot control, but the world inside me, the world of my thoughts, of my feelings, this is the world that is in my hands. The most powerful energy that exists is the energy of my thoughts. And so let me value my thoughts. Let me pay attention to my thoughts. Let me choose thoughts of peace. When my thoughts slow down, they also become very powerful. As my mind becomes quiet, I am able to listen to my own self. I am able to listen to my inner voice, my inner wisdom, and it is this wisdom that guides me in my life. It is this wisdom that gives meaning to my daily life. Let me honor this wisdom. Let me evoke this wisdom by spending some time every day in peace, in silence, and visiting the world inside me. When my mind is calm, when my mind is settled, my thinking becomes very clear. And I can see what I need to do in any situation. This inner peace, this inner silence is like a balm for the soul. I choose to live from this place of peace and this place of clarity. Okay, and now I come back to the awareness of the present moment. So I'm hoping that felt good and was a journey to the inner self. I just need to check, were you able to hear the music? Not sure if I did that properly. Is that a Yes, from Andreas. Yeah, thank you. Okay, thanks also, Karen, Robert. Let me come now to a last one or two things. And so this is about um, knowing the right direction to take in order to live a meaningful and significant life. So I'm going to show you another image here. So here then is a person who wants to make some change in life. So she or he has a number of ideas because this person is not quite satisfied with the way things are and thinks, what can I do? So these arrows represent ideas. So this person thinks, well, let me, maybe I should, live somewhere else. I should leave this neighborhood or maybe even leave the country, live somewhere else. An idea. Another idea, I need to get some new friends in my life, hang out with some different people. Another idea, perhaps I should learn another language to communicate with people around the world. Another idea, my job is really not so interesting. I'm just fed up, I need to change this. Another idea, maybe I should learn to drive or to learn to fly a plane or whatever it might be. Another one here, another one here, another one here. So lots of ideas. And so this person has great ideas, but 6 months later, this person will still have lots of good ideas. And none of them will have become practical. And you can see the problem that all of these are going in opposite directions. This is counterproductive. So the energy of the mind of this person is scattered. Too many ideas, too many thoughts. I should do this, I should do that, I should do a bit of the other. And so there is no coordination. And so this state of being defocused, I find, is quite common today. Either we have too many options, or I don't know what I want. Sometimes we want to do what somebody else is doing, and we chase after that for a while, but then it's not satisfying. Then we start something else, we stop that, we start something else, stop. So it's like drawing these half circles or these arcs, but not getting closure. And what is the reason why we start something, but we don't finish? Why do we run out of motivation? Why do the plans not become practical? Why does the rhetoric not change into reality? And one of the reasons is because that motivation is not coming from the right place. So then life seems to be rather haphazard, going a little bit in this direction, then sometime later the opposite direction, then full enthusiasm to go in another direction, and then you lose enthusiasm and you come back. So what to do? Well, here is a person who has worked themselves out. Let's say they've been exploring these ideas. And here they are. Here is that individual. It's actually the same person. So as you can see, there's one main arrow here, which is moving through this person's life. And that one main arrow has magnetized all the other arrows. So it's not as though those other plans have been shelved or have been discarded, but the plans this person makes are actually now supporting this one main arrow. So yeah, it may be the new job, it may be new friends in this person's life, it may be travel, it may be a new language, etc. But all of these are being driven in the same direction because of this one main arrow. And so the question then arises, well, what is this one main big arrow which magnetizes every other part of this person's mind? And that big arrow is purpose. When you have a clear sense of purpose, your mind becomes focused. And success respects focus more than it respects intelligence. So there are intelligent people around with a high IQ, but they may not be successful because the mind is not focused. And there are also people with relatively lower IQs, but because the mind is focused, they're able to reach their goals and be successful. So behind focus is purpose. And purpose is something very important to understand. Human beings require a sense of purpose in life. Even if you had everything to keep you alive, but you didn't have a sense of purpose, you would get bored. This is different to animals. Now, of course, animals are also different. Different species are different. But for most of them, food and shelter are the main things. But for human beings, if you had enough food for the rest of your life, if you had enough shelter, so these two things to keep you physically alive, but you didn't have a sense of purpose, you would wonder, what's the point? Now, if I made you an offer, for example, if I offered you to stay in a wonderful paradise island somewhere, let's say in some beautiful part of the world which is unpolluted, beautiful house and wonderful nature and organic veggies around, your food needs are provided, your shelter needs are provided, no rent to pay, but you have to stay there for the rest of your life. Now, this may sound like a good offer, and initially you'd think, great, no money worries anymore. But after a while, you would probably think, well, what's the point? Human soul needs a point. The human soul needs a purpose. Let's explore purpose a little bit more. And these are some ideas which are very meaningful for me in my late teens, early 20s. Everything in life has a purpose. And purpose simply can be described as how that thing is useful, what kind of service that thing is providing. So let's look at nature. The sun has its own purpose. So in our understanding, it gives heat and light and so on. The moon has its own purpose. The trees have their own purpose. The seas have their purpose. The wind has its purpose. Everything in nature has its own individual and unique purpose. So too do inanimate objects have their own purpose. So let me have a look around here. Let's say this is it's a pen. So what's the purpose of this? Well, the purpose is so I can write and I can put my ideas down. What else do we have here? Well, we have I have a glass of water here. So what is the purpose of this? The water is so I can drink and keep my throat active as I speak. What else do we have here? Well, we have we have these earphones. So what's the purpose of this? Well, so that I can plug this in and listen to something without disturbing others. What other objects do we have here? Well, I have this little clock here. What's the purpose of this? Is to make sure I shut up before time is over and Vicky doesn't cut me off, so I don't overspeak. So everything here has its own purpose. Everything is useful in a particular way. Now, if there was something in your room which had no purpose, you would wonder, why is that here? you would think, what's the purpose of this object? How is this useful? So if everything has its own unique and individual purpose and is useful in some way, then the question arises, well, what am I useful for? Now, there's the question to reflect on. What am I useful for? I, as an individual being, as an individual soul, individual spirit, what am I useful for? How can I contribute? Now, the good news is purpose is not something that you need to invent. It's not creative work. Finding purpose is detective work. It's about discovering. Every single human soul has an inbuilt purpose, and it's different for each one. And it's up to the individual to find that by making the mind quiet and listening to my own self. Now, your life up to now is also a set of clues as to what your purpose is. Purpose is always something which is to do with some sense of service, being useful in some way. And purpose is something you have some ability in, and also it's something that you enjoy. When you are living on purpose, when you are living in purpose, you feel very motivated. You know, it's like you have found your raison d'etre, your reason to be, and you feel like this is why I'm on this earth. This is what my life is about. So one thing that helps us to discover or detect purpose is just look back over your life up to now. Think of the times when your level of motivation was very high, when you really felt alive, as though when the hairs on the back of your neck stood up. What were those moments when the best in you came out? Consider this sentence, me at my best. And look back over your life and see what were those times when you were at your best. And try and identify what was being tapped or triggered in you in those situations. And it's different for every person. Now, some people, it may be, in a certain field, in the arts or in medicine or some kind of philanthropic work, or for some people, they're very good with animals and they love that. Everyone has something that they have some ability in. So one thing is look back over life and try and join the dots, and you'll begin to see a pattern forming. I speak from my own experience. And the second thing, which really helps, is spending some time with yourself in the morning. So before you start the day, before you launch into the day, before you see the messages on your phone and so on, spend some time being with yourself, reflecting by yourself, and even having a pen and a piece of paper near you. Just ask yourself that question. Just drop that question into your consciousness. Who am I? What's really important to me? Some call this as journaling. You just write down what comes out without trying to shape it in any way, just expressing on paper the thoughts and the feelings that are emerging within you. And if you do this over a period of time, I think you begin to see the pattern forming. And you begin to see, these are the things that are important to me. If you don't know what's important to you, then you take on board the things which are not important. One thing I discovered is if I don't know what to say yes to, I'll say yes to everything, just in case I might miss out on something. So when you really know what to say yes to, then you're able to say no to the things which waste your time and waste your energy. Now, I believe every person does know the answer to the deepest questions about their own lives. But in this crazy world of so much noise, so much information, misinformation, disinformation, the mind becomes very noisy. When the mind is noisy, then trying to listen to your inner wisdom is like trying to listen to a voice in a storm. You know something is there, but you can't make out what it is. That's why I firmly believe that spending some time in silence every day, reflection, meditation, is an absolute must in order to live a meaningful life or a quality life. And if it becomes a lifestyle, spending time with yourself every day, then even the things which bother you on a daily basis, you're washing them out of your mind every day. If you allow things to fester, irritations, annoyance, grievances, then they simply stack up. Then your thinking gets muddled and your emotions will hijack you at a moment when you need clear thinking. So daily silence, daily meditation, just allowing you to reconnect with the excellence that's actually within yourself. Okay, let me come now to the last slide, which is kind of a little summary of some of the ideas. And it's about where to live from. So the way that people live today, especially in big city life, but more and more so pretty much everywhere, is from, well, let me explain this, these three circles. At the very center is my real, eternal, true self. I, the being. I, the soul. I, the spiritual energy. That's my true form, my true identity. But very rarely do people spend time visiting this part. Mostly, we are lost in the things that we have to do: roles, relationships, responsibilities, routines, fulfilling the emotional needs of other people, etc., etc., running around doing things. So we identify with the labels of doing. Have to do this, have to do that. Plus, we identify very strongly with the labels of the things we have. For example, physically, you have a race, you have a nationality, you have a culture, you have a religion, you have a profession, you have a status in family or in society. And so when we identify with our doing labels and our having labels, this is what gives birth to ego. What is ego? It's nothing else but identification with my doing and my having labels. So mostly people spend their whole lives living within this ego layer. And where there is ego, there will be ego-based emotions as well. And those take you away from your inner wisdom, your excellence, which is actually who you really are. So life becomes rather meaningless when it is an ego-based life. And this is another topic to go into, but then there is, you compare yourself with people, you compete with people, you hold grudges, you invest unreal expectations in other people. Ego simply is a drain on your spiritual energy. What meditation spirituality tells us is, come here, come to the very central part. This is who you are. Experience yourself as this spiritual energy, the being, the soul. And when you begin to live from there, then what happens is your need for security is coming from deep inside you. The more secure you feel internally, the less you need the ego to make you feel that you are a someone. You feel stable, secure, strong, and safe. And in the language of this meditation, we call that living in soul consciousness. It's not enough to know I am a soul. It's not enough to accept it. It's not enough to believe it. But what is important is to live it. To live as a soul as you pass through day-to-day life. And when you do that, you always are able to access your inner wisdom, and therefore you can make the correct decisions in your daily life, how to handle people, how to handle situations, and yet at the end of the day, you will feel it was a meaningful day. So let me stop there and just hand back to Vicky.
So I wasn't able to finish the introduction. Something went wrong with the connection. And so I guess, Yogesh, everyone would agree with me tonight, as I could sense everybody gets inspired. That's the takeaway tonight. But I would say that you really have provided a very simplified but essence-full way of how we can still, it's not too late to make life as meaningful as it can be still. And later, the enrichment that we can get would be priceless in terms of how we have led our life and how we can also share it to others as what you have done tonight. So it's a priceless and really a night to remember. So we can never thank you enough. And I think we have a question. So I'm going to give you the questions that I have noted. There was one question that popped up. How do we handle the thoughts while meditating and by being in silence? So there are thoughts that come, while meditating or in silence. How to handle?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the thoughts will come. It's important to understand how consciousness works, how the soul works. So some of you will know that there are three main components. There is the mind, there is the intellect, and there is our resolves or our personality traits and so on. So when thoughts are coming, waste thoughts are coming in meditation, they are coming from this stock of my past actions, which we call as our personality traits. Just like water flows from a high place to a low place, they will naturally come. But what is important is to work on developing your concentration. And for concentration, there are two pillars, two supports to develop concentration. One is visualization, and the other is contemplation. And so the thing to do is like to create a visual image, for example, of this star in the forehead, which, as many of you would know, represents the soul. At the same time, contemplation, thoughts to think over in the meditation. And for beginners, it is suggested use a meditation commentary, where somebody is speaking and guiding you through the meditation. So when you are able to visualize and contemplate, these two together creates the state known as concentration. And when you concentrate, you move into experience, and that is called meditation. So it's a question of practice. Just like you want to do anything well, you want to learn to play the piano or learn a language or learn to cook a particular dish. Regularity in practice is important, and your concentration definitely develops. So that's what I would say was how to deal with those waste thoughts.
So thank you. Really, it sounds so simple, and really it's very worth trying. So I think you have done really a very clear, simplified, so essential, but yet I think everyone have come up with enriching and the experience that we have had on my case. While I was listening to you, also, we get the experience. And this would be a night to remember. No, we forget a lot of things, but the experience that we had with the way Yogesh had helped us navigate through what really is important deep in our heart is already planted. So I guess there are no, let me check, no questions coming. Yeah, so everyone is just expressing their thanks for a very wonderful session, if I may have to read it out from the comments. So from everyone, we really express our thank you, and we will have you again via Zoom, or again, you can come to Bahrain. Hopefully that time will come. Yeah. So stay safe and continue to inspire everyone as you have inspired everyone tonight. Thank you, Brother Yogesh.
Thank you, Vicky. Thanks to the Bahrain Meditation Center. And take care, everyone. Keep well and stay happy. Yeah.
Same to you. Yeah. Thank you. Good night.
Okay.
Good night. Thank you.